Voices Toastmasters Club. Please give yourself a round of applause for being here. Yeah, it's an early applause. The reason is this, because out of all the Toastmasters Club that we know, there are not many Toastmasters Club that goes into the podcast formatting. In fact, Toastmasters International has their own official podcast. And that itself, when I was listening to it and I was watching it, I realized that there are a lot of room for improvement. And as members, I believe that there are opportunities for us to go into it and perhaps do something a little bit more better and a little bit more relevant and a little bit more exciting for especially the listeners in the part of our world. And I think that is where we're looking at. Now, if you have yet or are here to observe whether if we will have a podcast immediately, just to let you know, tonight this is actually our first night and our first meeting as a new club and with a new club direction, that we start with a workshop. And at the end of this workshop, what will happen is that we will figure out the next meeting role player, because that is where we actually will do the podcasting. So whatever we learn today, we immediately apply them. That's where we are looking into in this meeting. So if you're actually looking forward to watch the podcast tonight, and just to let you know that it is not exactly a podcast right now tonight, we are actually learning how to conduct a good podcast with a person who has an experience with podcasting. Before I go into introducing the speaker himself, as always, in a Toastmasters meeting, we either start with two things. Either we do a toast, but it will be a little bit difficult to do a toast while we're being far away from each other. Instead, I would rather we do invocation to see whether if we can uplift our spirit before we begin on an exciting adventure. With that, let me invite the Vice President of Membership, Distinguished Toastmaster, Rosanna Yunus, to lead the invocation. Over to you, Rosanna.
Thank you very much, President Honey. So my invocation today reminds me of why I started Toastmasters in the first place, which was 21 years ago. And that was when I first stepped into my Toastmasters meeting, is that I thought, wow, I'm here to learn something new and I'm here to better myself. And so far throughout the whole Toastmasters experience, I've been learning about developing great speeches, learning how to be a great leader, and the journey hasn't stopped since then. And then when Honey threw out this idea of having a podcasting club, I thought, why not? Those who were much younger than I were very excited by the idea. But yet someone who is like myself, who is now in their mid-40s, is very fearful of this idea because it's something new for me personally, although it may not be new to other people who have been exposed to it much earlier on. And that's when I realized that whatever process we've been going through in Toastmasters is a process and a journey of continuous learning and continuous improvement. And Brian Tracy had said in one of his quotes is that continuous learning is the minimum requirement for success in any field. And as Toastmasters, or even as people who are looking to be successful in life, being able to communicate effectively and to lead a team productively doesn't stop at just attending a Toastmasters meeting or attending training and so on and so forth. It revolves around having conversations. It revolves around meeting new people. It revolves around reading books and digital materials and so on and so forth. And so that's why I felt like this is really timely for all of us for us to learn a new skill, or at least for myself personally, is that I mustn't stop learning. Is that there's a platform that's given to me, and it's up to me and it's up to all of us to be able to maximize whatever opportunity or platform that's given to us, because we're in the business of continuous learning, and that we must remember that in order for us to be successful in any field, the minimum requirement really is to continuously learn and never stop learning. Over to you, President Honey.
Amazing, Rosanna. Please give Rosanna a round of applause. If you cannot turn on your camera, do give a reaction so that Rosanna know we are listening. And from that, what I gathered are the few key things within the direction of Vivid Voices podcast, which is to equip ourselves with new skills, that this is a great adventure, that it is up to us to maximize this opportunity, and most importantly, all of us continue to learn, and as we improve, it will affect our everyday life, regardless whether it is for your career or just for you to keep yourself updated, because it is very important for us today to stay in the loop of what is happening around the world. And I think this is one of the platforms of where we can do so. With the invocation done, let me introduce first the lineup of officers that we have. Hello, everyone. My name is Honey. I'm the club president. If I mention your name, just wave on the screen and say hello. And we have our Vice President of Education. You've heard from her just now, distinguished Toastmasters Rosanna Yunus, just right there. We have our Vice President Membership, Bhuvi Rubachandran, all the way from Qatar. And we have our VPPR, Christy Tan. Hello, Christy. If you've been seeing all our social media posts, it has been very constant, has been very entertaining and exciting. And you can see that Christy puts a lot of effort in it. We have Secretary Latricia, and I believe she's here. Yep, there you go, Latricia. So tonight she actually asked whether if she needs to take notes. Well, the only notes you need to take is how to make this podcast a real great one. Thank you, Latricia. And as well as our treasurer, current district PRM, Terence Lee, the other Lee. And as well as our SAA, who is not able to be here. Her name is Audrey. Okay, Audrey is a new Toastmaster. So we have yet to figure out the dynamic between all of us. But best be sure, just like what Rosanna said, we are maximizing our opportunities, and as we learn as we go. We have plenty of guests tonight, so that Robin knows who to pick and call. Let me call the guests to introduce themselves, and a short one, not yet the table topic part, just a short one. Your name, where you're from at the moment, and who invites you. Your name, where you are at the moment, and who invites you. Let's start with Heidi.
Hi, good evening, everyone. A formal one now. My name is Heidi. I'm from the Brunei Advanced Speaker Club. Can you all hear me? Yeah, okay. So I first heard about it from Rosanna. When she told me about Vivid Toastmaster is going to be a podcast Toastmaster, so it was very interesting. So I told her full support from me, and I'm interested, and I'll be joining from the first day. So nice to be here and meet everyone from near and far. Yeah, over to you, Honey.
Thank you, Heidi. Elios, would you be able to introduce yourself? Are you right there?
Hello, I'm from Indonesia, District 87. I've been Toastmaster for 4 years. During this journey, I have been keynote speaker, workshop speaker, panelist about podcasting, comedy, humor, and soft skills. Back to you, Titi Hani, and I invited by you. Back to you.
Thank you, Elias. No more Didi, Elias. I'm already IP Didi. But thank you for that honor. Let's call upon Andy. Andy, if you're over there, please let us know your name, which we know, I guess, where you're from and who invited you. Hi.
Hi, thank you very much. It's really great to be here to get connected with people from different places, but all of them having the same common purpose. My name is Andy, and I'm from India, from a city called as Pune. I was introduced to this by my friend Ajay, who has been associated with Toastmasters for a very long time, almost 10 years now. Using the social media link, I was able to get the Zoom link thanks to the social media efforts on Instagram. It's really great to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. So, Kirsty, that's a plus point for you. Welcome, Andy. I hope you will enjoy tonight's meeting.
Absolutely. Look forward to.
Awesome. Right. Philip, it's
Yeah,
your
oh,
turn now.
yes. Philip, I'm Philip calling from Brunei. I was introduced to this podcast by Kirsty. So I heard it from her. And that's it. That's why I'm here tonight to find out, because I'm new to this podcasting. So I want to learn as much as I can. Thank you. Over back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Philip. The next person will be the other Adina. Brunei Adina.
Hi everyone, I'm Adina. I am from Brunei Advanced Speakers Club. I actually heard about Vivid Voices Toastmasters turning into a podcast from Rosanna because I have been really interested in podcasting, and I'm trying to gather the courage to actually start one, but I have been invited by Vivi. So thank you for having me tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Adina. Thanks for being here. Lee, not the other Lee, just the first Lee. What about you, Lee?
Is it just the one with the surname?
Yes, the one with just the surname.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Lee. Just shortcut my name. I'm from Otters from Brunei. I've been Toastmaster for about 5 years. I took a break last year. I came back this year as a secretary of Otters. So yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to this podcast. I mean, podcast is something I listen to every time. And for where I heard it, I don't quite remember, but probably a few places. But I do like the social page. I like the Snoopy pictures that's been going around. So good job, Kirsty. You caught my attention. I have very short attention span. So with that said, I look forward to this meeting, and back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lee. Wow, Kirsty, you have put us on a hot pan right now. We have to definitely perform, right? Azlina.
Thank you, honey. Hi, everyone. My name is Azlina. I'm from Swepa Club in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. I first heard about this club from Honey, and actually I have been contemplating doing the podcast project for my level 4. So this seems to be a good place to learn more about it. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Honey.
Thank you, Azlina. In fact, that actually was the motivation of why I decided to rebrand Vivid, because I was contemplating that particular module. I couldn't get myself to do it. So, instead of doing it alone, I'll bring everybody along. Okay, the next person, Adam.
Hi everyone, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
You know how controversial when I saw the name of Vivid Voices, and when Honey mentioned it last time. I'm Adam, I'm from Kuching. Before you got married, voices are always vivid, lucid, clear. And along the marriage, you realize your voices became vague. Like your daily words become vague. And that's what I'm hoping to look for. Some vivid voices from the club. And I actually didn't know what was it about. I only know it's about podcasts, and I'm pretty new at podcasts. So thank you for having me tonight. I will sit back and watch. Back to you, Honey.
Awesome. Thank you for that. You see, we though we may or may not live in the same house throughout the year, but I don't tell him everything about Toastmasters, so that's a proof right there. Jasmine, our area director, is here. Jasmine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Yeah, like what you said, I'm your area E2 director. Actually, I didn't know Honey is the president, but then when I was really I tell Terence, how am I going to handle with this? Actually, then I really contact Patrick. Yeah, how am I going to do? Then Patrick say, in your club, I call you president. Then okay, my pressure a bit lower, but I think with all the ESCO here, I believe that this club is going to fly, right, honey? And then I don't know how am I going to help you, but do let me know how am I going to help you. And then maybe later on, do you need me to go through your DCP point? No, yeah, that's very good. So I'm looking forward for tonight, and then I think this is going to be a new club, a new direction, like what you say. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Don't worry about it. I'm just another Toastmaster this year, just another president. So we'll talk about the DCP points later. Thank you, Jasmine, for that. Thank you, Area Director Jasmine, for that. Now let's call upon Jason. Jason, are you there?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, honey, can you hear
Jason.
me?
Yep.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Jason from Brunei Advanced Speakers Club. Been a Toastmasters for a while, like many of us. So how I heard about this? I heard about VVT from a number of ways. Used to be a club in Brunei, rebranded. More so recently because as an area director role, I get to see the clubs as well. But I think what interests me tonight is the podcast itself. I've been a listener of audiobooks, podcasts, and always been intrigued by how people could really share their experience, openly through podcasts with one another. So I'm gonna be interested to learn some tips and tricks of tonight from Robin, and also see how these clubs operate as well. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Jason. We ourselves are looking forward to it. To figuring out the perfect combination for this club. Michael, if you're right over there, hello, Michael. Well, it's okay. If Michael is not there, we can always circle back to him later when we have a break. So for that, let's begin our podcasting session. Let me introduce a little bit onto our speaker for the night. Robin Chan, a people development specialist formerly with Rogers & Co. Limited in Mauritius, has pioneered an insightful podcast that redefines workplace learning and engagement. Now, over the 2.5 years, Robin's show has educated and empowered the Rogers community with episodes such as How Purpose, Vision, and Values Shape Work Culture, Thrive in a VUCA World, and Navigating Gender Equity. Known for his authentic conversational style, Robin fosters meaningful dialogue that resonates beyond the company's wall. Facing challenges in both pre-production and post-production, Robin's commitment to authenticity and continuous improvement has garnered praises from listeners, guests, and company leadership. His advice to aspiring podcasters is simple yet profound. Be curious, be authentic, be human. Robin exemplifies how passion and dedication can transform workplace conversations into impactful learning experience, which all of that we hope to get as well from him tonight. Please give your loudest cheer to Robin Chan. Over to you, Robin.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for introducing me and inviting me for this brand new meeting of Vivid Voices Toastmasters Club. And today, I just want to let me share my screen with you so that we will have an interactive moment as well. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Looks clear. Yeah.
It's clear. Okay. Let me see. All right. So as you can see on my screen, there's a class code. So can you see the QR code here?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, you can see the QR code. So just scan the QR code. Scan the QR code, or you can just go to classpoint.app. Okay, go on your browser and click and just type classpoint.app. Okay, and then just key in the code POD 101. Okay. POD 101. We're gonna have some questions and then some activities together. Like, I don't want to make this this workshop as a boring workshop. I want to make it as fun as possible. So don't hesitate to ask questions. I will answer all your burning questions here. All right? Are you excited? I think you're excited because from what I'm hearing from all your reviews, you're excited. You come here. Can't wait to learn more about podcasting. All right? Okay, awesome. Let's get started. Are you ready? Yep. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. Don't know why my screen is keep getting off all the time. I think it's the internet. Never mind. All right, a little bit about me. So I was born and raised in Mauritius Island. If you do not know where Mauritius is, it's found in the Indian Ocean on the east side of Madagascar. And no, it's not the movie Madagascar, right? It's not like, you know, the lion and the penguins and all. No, it's not that. Just Google it and then you'll find it, okay? So I'm Chinese. For some people who do not know, they might see me like, hey, you look like Chinese. No, I don't look like Chinese. I am Chinese and I am Hakka. So for those who do not know, they have, I mean, like a lot of people ask me like, what kind of Chinese are you then? Then do you speak Hakka? Do you speak Mandarin? I said, no, I don't, unfortunately. Yeah, I know a little bit, some words, can manage a little bit, but yeah, I don't converse well. Okay, next up is I have lived in Malaysia for a decade. I was studying and working. For those who are interested to know why I have this kind of like a little bit, you know, speak like Malaysian now, you know, so yeah, sometimes. Yeah, so my background is in psychology, event management and people development, and also podcasting. Now moving on to why, before we go on, what is podcasting? So this is the agenda of today. So what is a podcast? And what kind of topic would you choose for your podcast? And what are the different kinds of format of podcasting, different styles of podcasts, the room settings, and also the technical aspect, especially in terms of software and equipment, and also the process of creating a successful podcast. And then lastly is Q&A. So in the middle, there will be some time for questions. If you're interested to ask the questions, don't hesitate to ask your questions. If not, then you just wait at the end until that I will be able to help you answer your questions. Is that all right? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, good, awesome. So this is from the survey that we have done. So how familiar are you with the concept of podcasting? So not of, like, some of you occasionally listen to podcasts, so which is fantastic. How frequently do you listen to podcasts? So 40% is like sometimes is rarely, once a week. The other one is regularly, which is good. Which of the following podcast style are you familiar with? So most of you are familiar with interview, solo, some of you, and storytelling. This one is nobody has ever created a podcast here, which is fine. Today, we're going to learn how to create a podcast, all right? And next up is how confident are you using recording equipment, like audio recording equipment? So some of you confident, not so confident, that's all right. Today, we're going to tackle that. This one, editing software for audio. Haven't done that before, which is fine. But on the other hand, this is quite surprising though. Like for video editing software, some of you have iMovie experience, Adobe Premiere Pro, CapCut, Quick, and another software as well. Okay. And then lastly is social media. So it's quite confident. Promoting content on social media, very familiar. So this is the part of the question that I've received. Are you still there? Yeah, my connection is a bit slow, I think. Yeah. So here is the question that I asked. Do you have any question for me regarding podcasting? The first question is where to start. I get that a lot from people who wants to start a podcast and do not know where to start. And today we're going to learn where to start. All right. And this question, this is a long question. I'm going to answer it at the end of the workshop. And the last part also, I will answer this part of how can you overcome your fears as well at the end of the workshop. All right. Okay. Let's start. So what is a podcast? So how many of you can you just explain what is a podcast to an 8 years old? So just go on your app. So now I have, just answer it here. Class point, just answer it. How would you explain what a podcast is to an 8 years old? Like a radio show. Cool, awesome. Any more? Storytelling platform, digital audio or video file series you can stream, right? Radio on demand show. Okay, awesome. Can you all see the screen? All the answers here? Yeah. So this is what you answered. And next on, so this is an exercise that I wanted to have with you to explain to an 8-year-old. And now let's move on to this one. How would you explain what a podcast is to a retiree in their 70s? Interesting. People having conversation, but you can listen to it too, like a radio talk show. It's like video which you can be shown on mobile screen rather than TV. Modern paging audio format. It's like a radio, but specific on the topic. Yeah, pretty much. Awesome. Any more? Cool. Awesome. Sharing knowledge. Yep. Very good. I love how you all answered in a different way and to your own way as well, by how you can answer to a 70, like a retiree in the 70s. So why I'm asking this question, what is a podcast? And how would you explain to an 8 years old and also to a 70 years old? So I had a conversation with my dad recently, not recently, but when I first started podcasting, he asked me, what do you do for a living? I was like, I do podcasts. What is a podcast? So how did I explain? This is my dad, by the way, like a handsome young man in his 70s, still like 70s young old, all right? Not old, but 70s years young, all right? So he asked me this question, what is a podcast? And I didn't know exactly how to explain that to him. So I had to find new words, and I just replied like this. Imagine a radio show where two people are talking to each other in front of a microphone, and it's been broadcast on live TV. Like, do you get the picture? Well, that's what I do for a living, except that mine is not broadcast live. Mine is on YouTube. So that's why I told my dad. And then he was like, I still don't get it. Until I showed him what I do for a living. I showed him the YouTube channel. I showed him on the podcast. And then he was like, oh, so now I know what you do. So do you work for the radio? I was like, so that's another story. But he thought that I work for the radio, like my company started a radio show. Yeah. But that's what podcast is. So why I asked this question. The reason for me to ask these questions to you is to be self-aware of what you know may not be understood by the others. You know, sometimes when you explain what is a podcast, they may not understand. To you, you can understand it, but others don't understand. So it's got to be a way for you to explain so that it's clear for others. If it's clear to you, how can you make it clearer for the others to understand what exactly you do? And be reflective of yourself, of why you want to do a podcast in the first place. All right? Still good, everyone? Yeah? Give me a thumbs up if all good. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so now let's move on to choosing your podcast topic. I know some people, when they start a podcast and like, what can I talk about? What kind of topic is relevant for people? Well, I've been in Malaysia for quite some time, and I know one of the topic that is quite famous in Malaysia is food. So if you're interested, you can talk about different kind of food, like what kind of food is good. And I know in Malaysia, they like to talk about food, especially when it involves a particular kind of people and particular kind of neighbor, especially the people of Singapore, when they say that nasi lemak is the best in Singapore. So discuss. So then you can discuss about it. So let's talk about why the best nasi lemak is found in Singapore. So then you have different opinion. So this is one of the ways to start a podcast. You choose a topic of like what you're passionate about, and then just talk about it. And yeah, that's it. So this is the steps. So talk about what you're passionate about. Do you want to talk about it? Then talk about it with friends or family. Ask yourself, how did it go? And then repeat with other people. If it went well, then that's your topic for your podcast. So it's as easy as that. Sometimes you think like podcast is like you need to find a very trendy kind of topic, but sometimes, you know, you try to make it over, you try to brainstorm until your brain, like, you know, gone. You don't have any more ideas. So maybe you just talk about a topic that you're passionate about. And then after that, yeah, that's it. Just discuss first and then talk with your friends and families. Once you try, then see how's the dynamic of the conversation. Is it good or is it bad? Is it something sensitive to some people? You'll be able to consider whether the topic is relevant or not. So this is one, for me, it's the simplest way to choose a podcast topic. You want to find other ways, of course. I mean, I won't teach you the rest of the ways. You can do your own homework. Some people use ChatGPT. Go ahead. I mean, I wanted to use ChatGPT to tell you how to do this, but then I'm like, you know, you can do it yourself. Ask ChatGPT, what is the topic that you want to talk about? Go ahead. But for me, that's not me. For me, it's more about you want to have an authentic conversation with people, or like you want to share your knowledge. You want to share something that you're passionate about. Then this is where you start. All right? Good. Moving on is the podcast format. So what kind of format do we have in podcasting? Well, there's only two, actually. So there's audio podcast and video podcast. So what is a audio podcast and what is video podcast? So I'm going to share with you some pros and cons, and also what are the ways, I mean, what are things you can consider out of these two formats. So let's start with the audio. Here are the benefits of the podcast in audio. So it's easier to produce because there's less equipment and technical expertise required. So if you want to do a podcast, for me, the easiest way is to go for audio, because you do not need to know a lot of technical skill. You can just use your phone. You know, every phone has a recorder, right? Just use that. That's it. And then you just publish. That's your podcast. As simple as that.
I believe
Maybe
Robin
team time.
is
Yes.
okay. She's back. He's back. Okay.
Yeah. What happened?
I think you were frozen for a short bit
Was I
just
disconnected?
now. Probably not, but you can continue. No worries.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Okay, all right. So the next part is it's a lower cost, less expensive to produce and edit. And also it's very fast to edit. When you do audio, just listen, cut, edit, listen, cut, edit, cut. Just it's very easy compared to video. And also we have a lot of platforms for that. There's a wider reach, easier distribution on platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. All right. And the other thing is the other challenge for audio, the challenges are limited engagement because there's no visual elements which can limit audience engagement, and it's also difficult to demonstrate. So it's harder to show visual content or demonstration. For example, let's say you want to talk about, I heard a podcast about some science things like neurology. So the guy was trying to explain something and I was listening to it. I find it very hard to understand because I can't visualize it. So that's why I think certain podcasts is like you try to explain some things, but sometimes it's very hard to visualize. And the other challenge is a less personal connection. So sometimes it may feel like less personal without any virtual interaction. So when do you use that? When do you use audio podcasts? You use for interview show, where it's focused on conversation and discussions. Narrative storytelling, where the story or content is driven by audio. It can be an educational content, easy to listen and digest information. All right, so moving on to the next part, which is the video. The benefits is visual engagement. Definitely, visual elements can enhance storytelling and engagement. It's a better demonstration where you can show products, charts, or demonstration visually, and it also builds a stronger connection. You know, viewers can see the host, can see the guests, and creating more personal connection with them while they are watching the podcast. And also, it's more, you know, the thing about video podcasting is that when you share, it's shareable, and like it becomes like very easy to share for other people to just, oh, have you watched this or have you watched that? And it becomes very popular. Nowadays, the trend of podcasting is this, video podcasts instead of audio podcasting. But the challenge is this, it's higher production costs. It costs a lot to produce a video podcast. It requires more equipment and technical expertise. There's longer editing time, more time consuming to edit video content, and the setup is quite complex because you need a proper setting, lighting, and background as well. And also there's platform limitation. Some podcast platform may not support videos. Like if you go on Spotify, you will never find videos on Spotify. The only place for podcasts would be YouTube or other platform like Vimeo, or like there are a lot of other platforms that people just post directly. But the popular one like Spotify or Google Podcasts, you can't find this. Okay, and when to use that? So when you use video is for tutorials and how-to-dos where visuals demonstration is key. Video interviews to capture and convey body language and expressions, and visual storytelling when visuals are essential to the story and content. And I think this is one of the things that you want to do, live recordings. So for live interaction, webinars, and events. So this is when you use podcast format for video. All right. So far, so good. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so now there is different kind of podcast styles. There are others as well, but I want to talk mainly on this one. So the popular ones are interviews. So there are only two popular ones. So the interview podcast and the solo podcast. And the panel discussion is, I won't say popular, but it's starting to get there. And for me personally, it kind of like there's a lot of topics they talk about, and sometimes it can jump into something that is not relevant to the topic itself, and you lose your focus. So unless you have a good moderator, then you can do this. And there's storytelling. So you want to tell about you want to tell stories, you can do that kind of podcast style. So what is your preferred podcast style? I want to know that. So go on the app again and let me know. Like one word here. So which is your preferred one? Is it interview, storytelling, solo or monologue? How to? Okay. Solo. All right. Okay, so most it's interview, and for me, I would prefer interview and storytelling as well. Storytelling is more to solo. Yeah, it is a kind of solo, but more like you tell stories, whereas the solo is more like you want to produce content. Like for example, you want to talk about leadership, you want to talk about business, you want to talk about cooking, anything you specific. All right. So let's move on. Is everyone okay? Before we continue, I just want to check on everyone here. Is everyone okay? Yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Should we go for any questions so far, or you want to just continue ahead? If there's any question, actually my next question is after this, but I want to talk more about before I go to a little bit complex on the room setting. Any question? No. In 3, 2, 1, no question. All right, so I'll move on to this one is the room setting. There's two types of room setting, which is the in-person room setting and the online room setting. For the in-person room setting is, you can see what is the aspect here, the pros and the cons of an in-person room setting. For me, I've done both. I've done the online and I've done the in-person as well. Which one I prefer? I prefer the in-person. I will tell you why later. All right, I'll tell you why. Online is good too, but it has its limitation, and I will tell you what is its limitation. So on this one is the in-person room setting, which is the higher order quality when control environment and professional equipment. When you have professional equipment, like you have a proper microphone, proper lighting, proper camera. And the con of it is that it requires a quiet, acoustically treated space. You know, when you have an in-person recording, you can't have your dog like barking outside, or you have you have someone who is doing construction work next door. Like for me, I use that, and then I tried to have this kind of environment, but it was very hard for me. And I had my gardener who was like cutting the grass, lawning the lawn. I was like, oh man, I'm recording right now, dude. So that's one of the challenge that you have in terms of audio recording. And the interaction is natural, of course, definitely. It's a face-to-face interaction where it can enhance conversation and flow and engagement. On this part, one of the cons here is the scheduling can be more challenging due to location constraint. So it depends on exactly where you're having your in-person recording, and then you're inviting the guest to come. So when you're inviting a guest to come, whether the guest can make it to this location or not, it can be quite a constraint. So for me, my challenge was not this, but more on the parking. Why should I invite a guest and I can't find a parking for my guests? It's quite a challenge, right? And the other thing is visual setup. The visual setup is easier to manage, consistent lighting and camera angle. You have different the room setting for in-person. You need to have, it depends on how you want it sit. For me, when I had my recording, I have three cameras. First camera is the wide angle. The second camera is focusing on the guests. And the other camera focuses on me as the host. So there's three cameras shooting at the same time. And the lighting, you can already prepare earlier and set up earlier so that it's easier for you. And you don't have to touch anything. You just plug it in and then just start recording. The con of it is like it requires more equipment, cameras, lighting, and microphone, which sometimes can be quite costly as well if you're not, if you don't have the budget for it. Technical issues, fewer technical issues related to internet and connectivity. So like right now, my screen is like, my camera is keep shutting off. I don't know why. So that's one of the challenges of having online podcasts. Yeah, so the con is initial setup can be time consuming and require technical knowledge. So in terms of professionalism in in-person setting, is more professional and feel like it's a dedicated studio space. And the con is like it can be higher cost due to equipment and space rental. So if you don't have any space for a podcast, then for me, I would not recommend it. Unless you have the budget, go for it. All right. And now moving on to online. Online also is quite interesting. I started with an online podcast. I had a podcast where I interviewed someone. I interviewed the guests online from different countries, and we just did it online, and we had good time as well. So the convenience is that it's easier to schedule and record from any location. So like I had a guest from Australia, I had a guest from UK, I have another guest from Malaysia as well. So there's different guests you can have from different locations. So that's one of the things that is quite good in an online podcast. And the con is that audio and video quality can be compromised due to internet issues. So one of the challenges of this is the audio and video, like what I'm having right now, as you can see. All right, at least like you can understand what I'm facing right now. I'm expressing live right now. Okay, so in terms of cost, it's a lower cost as it typically requires less equipment and no studio rental at all. So what do you do? I'll explain to you later on in terms of costing as well for an online. If you want to invest, we can talk about it later on. And the challenges is the dependence of the other participants' equipment and quality and internet speed. You know, sometimes like I can have a good quality microphone or a good quality camera, but how about my guests? Does my guests have a good quality equipment? Like for me, I have this mic here. See, I open this mic. This is my microphone that I carry with me almost everywhere when I travel, when I'm doing podcasts. So it's quite small. It looks like, you know, a mini spaceship. So this is what I use for my podcast, which is very practical and very light. I bought this on Lazada, by the way. So you can go and find it. All right. Okay, later I'll give you the reference. And it's quite cheap. I bought it before the pandemic, so it was quite cheap back then. It's also flexible, great, flexible for remote guests and participants, like what I was sharing. The difficulty is the the connection dropout and lagging. So setup, very minimal setup, recording tools. You can use Zoom or you can use Riverside. Riverside, I'll explain to you what is Riverside, all right, later on. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Before we move on to the next part, which I'm going to talk about more of a technical part now. But before that, you can just unmute yourself and ask me any questions that you would like to know that I've talked so far. Yeah, anyone? Any question? Feel free.
I do have a question. Can I ask, Robin?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So, my question is for a starter podcaster, what compulsory equipment do you think every individual should have?
Okay, for a beginner, well, you can, for me, I would recommend, I mean, it depends on what kind of setting you want to have. You want to have the online itself, right? So if the online, I would not, one of the things that I would not recommend for you is the earbud, the Bluetooth earbud. Yeah, don't. Yeah. Why? Because it's Bluetooth and the sound quality is very bad. Yeah. I know some people say, oh, but it's practical, it's easy. But for podcasting, for online meeting, yes. But for podcasts, once you download the recording and you try to listen again, you will hear some sound. I mean, if you put a real headphone on and then you just listen, you will hear a little bit. Yeah. You hear this kind of sound, like some of the sound will be faded or empty, like absorbed by some stuff. So that's why it's not consistent. That's the reason why I don't recommend this. But the wired will be better. Yeah, the wired will be better. If you want to start, the wired microphone. I'm not sure if are they still selling this? The wired microphone? Yeah, I think they are. So if you really want to start, the wired one is the best solution. But when you speak in the wired microphone, don't do this. Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3, testing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, don't speak directly to the microphone. Just normally just wear it and just speak normally. All right. And then when you have the wired, one of the things that you do is that make sure that when you don't move a lot, because you know when you're close, or especially for girls, especially girls, you have necklace. So when you wear necklace and then you hear crock, 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 crock. Yeah. So you on your podcast, like you hear, what is this sound? Special effect. Yeah, special effect. This one you can't edit, you know? You can't edit when you have this kind of sound. So I can tell you what not to have rather than what to have, because what to have is more of a personal choice. It depends on your budget. It depends on how passionate you are and how you want to go ahead on podcasting. You know, when I just started podcasting, I had this microphone with me, but I didn't start the podcast on this. I started the podcast with using the wired one, and I just started like this. I just held it and I just recorded. I did an audio podcast as a test, and then I just wanted to know how it sounded like. Yeah, it's more of a personal preference. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes. Go ahead, Adina.
So for a new podcaster, do you have any advice in terms of how I select the panel or who I would like to interview in my podcast? Because I would imagine like it has to be somebody who's credible or that has something to share so that it will incite interest from the viewers.
Yeah. For me, I would invite you to start to find about what is the topic. what is your topic that you want to talk about? Because based on the topic, you can eventually find the right people to talk about it. So if you don't have a topic that is clear for you, when you try to find guests, then it depends on what direction are you going? Which direction do you want to go for your podcast? Are you going to talk about, for example, let's say some podcasts want to talk about relationship. I'll give you an example. So you talk about relationship on like a theme, and then you try to find different guests on that. You get what I mean? So if you want to talk about business, but what kind of business? You want to talk about entrepreneurship? You want to talk about online business? You want to talk about teaching online, or even about Toastmaster online? Which is better, Toastmaster online or Toastmaster in person? So you can have like a debate. So you can have then you can invite different guests from overseas, one who is always online, one who is who prefers more of an in-person. So you can have like a debate, or you can have like a pros and cons. So different perspective. Did I answer your question? Yeah. All right. One more question, and I move on to the next. Yeah, one more question on everything that I've spoken so far. Is there anything else that you would like to know? Please don't be shy. No? So far, so good? Okay, because later you have quiz, okay? If you don't pass, you cannot do podcasts. I'm kidding. All right, let's move on. So the next part is more on the tech software. So the podcast tech, what software to use? So this is a question that a lot of people ask me, and this is the software that I previously used. And for me, it's very practical and also very easy. It's very easy to use. So the first one is the audio software. So the audio software, you have Audacity and Spotify for podcasters. So for those who do not know about Spotify for podcasters, previously the name was Anchor.fm. I don't know if you heard about it. How many of you have ever heard about Anchor.fm? Anchor.fm, I've discovered during the pandemic, where people just recorded a podcast directly from their phone. Like it's as simple as that. It's an audio podcast, just record it, and then after that, you can just edit on it. You have the music, you have the intro, you have the background music, you have the outro as well. It's very nice, very easy to use. It is very, very practical and very easy to use. So for me, I would recommend this as if you want to venture into audio podcasting. For Audacity, I started with Audacity at first. What is Audacity? Audacity is a free software. It's a free software. You can use that you just go to audacity.com and then just download it. So if you don't have it already on your desktop, some of you can have it on the desktop, some don't have it on the desktop. Yeah. I don't know why my camera is not working right now. Okay, yeah, all right. So some of you can have it on the desktop already, because it's pre-installed. This is for what do you call that? For Windows. Whereas on Apple, people use GarageBand. You can use GarageBand, which is easier to use as well. So GarageBand is usually for music, but some people prefer to use that. I don't have an Apple product. I don't have a MacBook or whatsoever. So I do not know how to use, but I know some people use that. And the other side is, if you want to do both, either audio or video, you can go for these two apps. these two software, which is called, one is called Descript. Descript is a very popular for podcasting. For me, I use it a lot. I love Descript. It's called Descript, not Descript. Okay, it's Descript. So what I like about Descript is that it can, once you record your video, it immediately transcribes it, automatically transcribes everything. And once it's transcribed, how do you want to edit it? Once it's transcribed, let's say you have a lot of filler words, for example. You just click on it, on like remove filler words, all your filler words are gone. How amazing is that? All your filler words will be gone. And if you want to edit some stuff and replace it, you can just replace that easily, very easy. The other software here is called Riverside that I got to know recently. And I got to know this by watching a podcast with this entrepreneur called Gary Vee. He was having an interview with Mark Zuckerberg, and they were both using Riverside. And I was like, wow, how is it like so clear? So if you want to use Zoom, all the best to you. Like I like Zoom, but Riverside is much better. If you want to have clearer audio, want to have clearer visual, Riverside provides this for you. And if you want to have, you just type riverside.fm, you can download the app and you can use it online as well. So you can download it and on your desktop as well. For me, I like to use on the desktop, which is very good. Not desktop, you can use it online. Yeah. But you can have the paid version or you can have the free version. Free version, you can just use it as a trial. If you like it, then for me personally, I would think it's a good investment. It's a very, very good investment. Yeah. All right. Any questions so far on this one? No? Good. All right. Moving on to the next part of tech, of the podcast tech, what equipment to use. The other equipments to use, which is quite basic, which is a camera. You can use your webcam, you can use your phone camera, or if you have the budget, you can afford it, you can use a professional DSLR. And for microphone, so these are the two microphones that most people use, which is a dynamic microphone or a condensed microphone. You can just Google it and find what is the difference. For me, I prefer a condensed microphone instead of a dynamic because it sounds very podcasty. Yeah. So it kind of like make the feel of like, you can really feel like, oh, wow, feels good. Having some eargasm. Yeah. So condensed podcast. That's for me, like easiest. You don't have much of editing to do on that. And you can use wireless mic. I know some people would rather use wireless mic. Like I said, don't use Bluetooth. Wireless mic, you can just go in some shops like IT shops, just look for wireless mic, which is not Bluetooth. It's more like transmitter. So you will find it. You just go on, I can recommend a few brands as well later on, and I'll tell you what I use as well for a wireless microphone. All right, okay. And the last part of the equipment to use, which is lighting. So avoid to use ring light. How many of you use ring light here? Raise up your hand. No. Nobody use ring light. Okay, so let me tell you why not use ring light. This is what I've learned. When you use ring light, when the light is right in front of you and the camera is just like this, right? Like you can see directly like this, and like it's so bright. When you look directly into the camera, the ring light, you will see a circle in your eye, on your black eyes itself, and that's a reflection of the ring light. And like, what is that? So it's quite distracting, especially for those who are wearing contact lenses as well. So this will affect, all right? So, and if you're using, if you're wearing glasses, you can see the reflection on the glass as well, that you're using a ring light, because you see like, hey, what is this? Like, why is a circle here? Yeah. So avoid using that. It's good, but if you can avoid it, just avoid it. I know it's cheap, but there are better lights than this, which you can use LED lights. So there are some cheap LED lights. Not every LED lights are expensive. You can find the cheap ones. Just go to some shops or go online and research about it. All right. Any other questions so far, especially in terms of technical? Before I move on, because I know this is I know the technical part is like quite challenging.
I have one question, and it's
Yes.
related to your condensed mic or
Yes.
the extension mic. So I
Yes.
actually have those extension kind of mic, like a condensed mic and things.
Yeah.
I do have that, and I tried to connect. It's either I don't know how to connect them, or do I need to have like in between, like another equipment to generate it? Because a friend of
Yeah.
mine told me something about a phantom power, and I gave up from there. So
Yeah. Yeah. There are some, if you're using a laptop like mine, like for me, this one is when I bought it, I make sure that it's a USB. So if it's a USB, then you can connect it directly to your laptop. But if it's not a USB, then you will definitely need to buy something else to set up some more. And yeah, it will cost a few more bucks on you. Yeah. So
would it be of a difference?
it's not a, it's more like the difference is this: you have an audio mixer. So when you have an audio mixer, you can just use that as you know when to control the sound. So it's a better control. An audio mixer helps to have a better control. But for me, I don't have one. I only have this. So that's the best. For me, my control would be moving out and back. Like, are you speaking loud or not? Yeah, just don't breathe so much into the mic, because you can hear. You know, when you're like doing podcasts, yeah. Like, do you just run? Did you just run just now? Well, before you do the podcast. So yeah. So this is, for me, I would recommend, I mean, you can see if you need to buy a mixer, go ahead. For me, I don't have one. Yeah. But it's good too. It's good for better control. All right. Any other question on the technical aspect of podcasts? No questions? I'm quite
Robbie, just
surprised.
now you said the light, just a house light. Is it possible that the light that we
Yes.
use?
Yes, definitely. Yes, house light is possible, as long as you can have proper lighting that can, can see your face better, instead of like a little bit dark. If your light is at the back of you, then your face is a bit dark, then it's not very nice. Like,
Yeah.
people won't be able to see you clearly, especially your expression. Yeah. So if you want to be able to connect more with your audience, have a better light. Yeah.
I have a question about the microphone.
Yeah.
The microphone that you just showed. Before starting the podcast, where I was just looking around the website where we can buy microphone. There was a microphone which had a plate kind of thing, which was a mesh plate over the microphone. What is that? Can you? I mean, I don't know. We should buy that, or the one. I mean,
Okay.
comparatively, which one is the better one? I'm not
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, you don't have to buy an expensive one. And some microphone, they look quite fancy. And then you say, oh, I need to buy this microphone because it's good for podcasts. For like, it might be good, but it might just be a gimmick. Like, it just shows that it looks like professional, but it's not a good quality. So for me, I would recommend some brands. So if you can check it out. The most expensive one, I'll start with the most expensive one, which is Rode. Just type REDE, Rode. Rode microphones are very good for podcasts. And then there's, for me, if you want to use a good quality microphone, but cheaper, I mean, kind of like similar to Rode, which is called Saramonic. Saramonic, SAROMONIC. Saramonic microphones. All right. The one I have here, the small one, this one is called Samson. SOMSON. SOMSON. Samson microphone. Yeah. Which I think is quite good. And there are other microphone like there's Audio Technica. There are other, I don't recommend, there's, you know, some people use this kind of microphone. I don't know if you've seen it before. Some people use headphones plus microphone and then they do podcasts, right? Have you seen this before? I wouldn't recommend that because the quality of the microphone is not very good. Yeah, it's good for the sound. Very good, very clear. It's like you can hear everything. You can hear like mosquito also, like from far away. But don't use the mic. The microphone is not very good quality, in my opinion. Yeah. All right. So if you want to use a microphone, use Rode, Saramonic, or Samson, which for me, my preference, or Audio Technica. And don't use Bluetooth set. Yeah. Avoid to use any kind of Bluetooth. All right.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the background sound that keeps on disturbing us when we are doing a podcast, recording a podcast.
Yeah.
But what if we don't have option? We have to do it in this room. Is there any hack where we can, like a black screen all around the windows so that the sound doesn't come? Do you have any hack where I can, a smart way to keep the sound outside?
Yes, you can do that. You can, if you want to have a better sound, which is like avoid, I mean, it depends on what application you're using, what software are you using. For example, if you're using Zoom, right? If you're using Zoom, you can go on your Zoom right now, right? Go into the settings of Zoom, audio. So you see audio down there, and then you see the arrow. You just click on it and go to audio settings. All right. So when you go to audio settings, you see you see speaker, microphone, and audio profile, right? So on the audio profile, what you can see auto, low, medium, and high. Can you see that? Yeah. Yeah. So what you select is you select high. Yeah. If everywhere is noisy, you select high. Yeah. So this is for Zoom. On Riverside, which I use as well, you can select that as well to cut the background sound. Yeah. And if you use the software like Descript, the software like Descript is like once you recorded it, you upload the video on Descript, there's a function on it. It doesn't matter if like you had a background noise or like you can hear your dog barking or your neighbor's dog barking, it's fine. Because once you put the video on the software Descript, there's an option on it which is called Studio Sound, but it's but you need to pay for it. Once you subscribe to it, this function, you just press it, it removes the sound. Every background sound. It will make as if like you're in your own studio. Even your voice will sound deep. Yeah. And sexy if you want to. Yeah. Interesting, right? Any other questions? For those who haven't asked any question yet, are you sure you're okay? I just want to check on you. Need to start asking my husband to use that kind of microphone from now on. All right. Yeah. Yeah, it's called, let me type it here. It's called Sarah Monic. Okay. Yeah, Sarah Monic. This is what I use as well. I have a wireless microphone. Or you can, the latest one I've seen, a wireless one is called you know, the drone, like people use it for drone shooting. It's called DJI. So DJI just released the latest microphone, which is very good. I'm quite surprised by it. So you can check it out as well. But it's a bit expensive though. Yeah. You can check it out. Okay. Any good microphone ticket? What do you mean by that? Can you unmute yourself and maybe you can clarify on that?
I don't know, like sometimes when we use microphone, there's bad ways of using microphone when speaking, and there's good ways of using microphone so that everyone can hear your audio.
Yeah. Some people when you use microphone, they tend to, I mean, it depends. Don't be too near to the microphone. Like for example, if you use the microphone and I speak to you like this, it's a bit too loud, right? So the best is to have a good distance where when you're recording, it doesn't disturb your space. You know, some people have like the arm and then they have a microphone here, right? Just on top here. So when you have the microphone here, then it won't really disturb. But some people have a microphone on top here, like below here. So it might be distracting for people or even for yourself. So just look for your space. I think in terms of etiquette is, where are you placing your microphone? You got to know, you got to test it out, whether it works. You got to do a few tryouts and see whether it works or not. Yeah. Yeah, have I answered your question? Good. Yeah. Any last question before we move on? No? Terence, all good? Yeah, awesome. Okay. Let's move on to the next part of it, which is the most important part of podcasting. You know, a lot of people, when they organize podcasts, they say, most people think podcast is all about the tech part. But for me, the most important thing about podcasts, creating a podcast to make every podcast successful, is the podcast processes. So what do you do? First is the pre-production, the production, and the post-production. So 3 parts. Like, you know, when you want to, like when you watch movie, you see all those post-credits, like this is pre-production, this is production by who, and post-production, this is like the list of all the people. So for you as a podcaster, your name is everywhere. Okay, so you have to do everything yourself. And unless you have a team, then you just do that. All right. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Let's start with the first one, which is pre-production. So in terms of pre-production, the first thing that you need to do is planning. Always plan for the podcast. Never go for a podcast like a podcast recording without any planning. Okay, today, you know, I'm a Toastmaster. I've been like speaking every time, all the time. No problem. I can just go. Just tell shoot, action, and then just go. No, don't do that, because it's overconfidence, and everything needs preparation. So preparation starts with the first, if you're doing like an interview, prepare by inviting the guests. So invite your guests earlier. So if your podcast is in 2 weeks, you can't invite your guests like today, you gotta invite your guests 1 month in advance. Listen to minimum 1 month in advance. I had a guest that I invited 2 months in advance. 2 months in advance. On the day of the podcast, she said she can't make it. And I was like, what? What do I do now? So we postponed it to next year. So I made a podcast with her 1 year later. Yeah. So if you, it's good to, when you invite a guest, make sure that it's make sure that it's on the same calendar as the guest. Because if not, every time when you invite someone to join your podcast, make sure that they know it's this date. Make sure that they are well prepared. Discuss the question with them in advance, which is better, like preparing the question and the content. Like what kind of question they want to ask. Like if you want to talk about, for me, I ask about the work culture, like talk about visions and values of the company. So I had this guest from India who I interviewed, and I asked a lot of questions. I pre-asked the question before asking the question again during the interview, during the recording itself. Why do I do this? Is because I can prepare, and if any question that I feel like I want to ask again, I can ask on the spot. For example, let's say, can you clarify on this, on what you mentioned just now? And then, can you give me some examples? Like you can add on some questions later on. So that's why preparation is key in every podcast. The next thing is the setup. The setup, the room. In terms of the room, you have the camera, the lights, and the microphone. You gotta set it up, okay? And in terms of props, for me, when I was doing props for my podcast, for my company wanted to have like a proper branding. So they had the logo at the background, and we had some plants that we put all over the places, and we have a proper sofa so that we know that it's already prepared, like, you know, like props. One of the challenges that I had in terms of props is that my sofa had some sounds when I was turning around, like, you know. So make sure that it doesn't have any sound because it affects the audio as well. In terms of props, what do you use? Is use cue cards when you want to ask your questions, or you can use a tablet. For me, I like tablet because it's easier to scroll. Don't use paper. Don't use notebook or paper, like, you know, flip. Why? Because every flip you do, you can hear the sound of the flipping page. All right. And also when you have, I know some people, like, they hold their paper. I don't have paper here, but when they hold their paper, and then you can hear the sound of the paper. And then when you have to turn the page or like turn over, and then the other paper falls on the ground. So to have less risk of paper falling, use digital or use cue cards. Yeah. The best for me, cue cards, is to use at least, or maybe maximum, 6 cards for 6 questions throughout the podcast, which is easier. Yeah. That's about it. And then the last part of the pre-production, which is very, very, very important, is to do a test recording. Once you set up everything, always do a test. Never go shooting a podcast without testing. Always test the sound, the lighting, and test whether, try to do a recording and then see, like, is it smooth or not smooth at all? And then we watch the recording. All right. So preparation is key. Okay. Next part of the podcast is the podcast process is the production. In terms of production is the recording. So once you prepared everything, so ready, you must be ready. So before you conduct the interview, before you press record, once you press record, there's no pause, there's no stop. All right. If you need to go to the toilet, go to the toilet. If you want to go to get a drink first. And then just once you press record, action, just start. So then people say, but I make mistakes. So sometimes like I lost it, but mistakes will happen. You see? So mistakes will happen. You can just continue and watch what mistakes you have done and do the retakes later on when necessary. Don't break the flow. For me is because from my experience, I've cut, redo it, cut and redo on the spot itself. You break the flow. Just go ahead. And then after, if you have to redo it, just redo it later. Because sometimes people are scared, like, especially for me like this, like when I see my guests, like when the moment action, then my guests start to sweat a lot and do not know what to say. Like they are stuttering when they answer some question, especially when the first question is like, so can you tell me more about yourself? I'm like this, I'm like that, so it's like they're stuttering because they have a camera and lighting straight on them. So just make them comfortable at first and then just start recording. And then later on, just do any retakes. All right. So far, so good. The last one, this is post-production. It's not production, it's post-production. So post-production is the part once you finish recording, now is the time for reviewing it. So listen and assess the recording, whether it has been done correctly or not. And then if not, then the best retakes to do is, for me, maximum is 2 retakes. Like the maximum you can, don't do more than 2 retakes, because when you do more than 2 retakes, you become robotic. You become robotic and it's very fake. Like it's a rehearsed podcast and it's not very good. People can hear and listen to, when they watch you, that I've never seen that person like this before. You can feel like the fakeness of people once it's rehearsed. Yeah. Okay. And the next part is so that's why it's important to review and edit basic editing skills you need to have. Publishing. So publishing is like you publish on different platforms depending on what kind of podcast you want to do. What kind of format? Is it audio podcast or video podcast? So, and then you can use the RSS feed. RSS stands for Real Simple Syndication, and it is a simple standard content distribution method that can help you stay up to date for your favorite newscasts, blogs, website, and social media channels. And the last thing here on post-production is promoting. What are the strategies for promoting your episodes? So you're gonna just strategize on how you're gonna promote your podcast. So that's how you should produce the podcast, from pre-production, production to post-production. All right. And yeah, any questions so far before I tackle the last question from the survey? No?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it is little childish question, but I want to ask. This podcasting is, it's not an instant success. We have to go through.
That's right.
And if a person like me who is not so much into social media, how will I tell people that there's a podcast, like I have done something and I want to tell others that come listen to my podcast? How will I do that if I don't have that much of network, but I want people to come and see, listen to the podcast?
Yeah. Thank you very much for your question. Do you use WhatsApp? Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have like a family group?
Yes.
Do you have like friends group?
Yes.
Yeah. You can start from there. Just share. Yeah. So for me also, like, I want to share my podcast because I was doing a corporate podcast. So it was based on the company who will post it. But for me personally, I post on my social media. And one of the things that one of the places that I post is, all I have a group where I have all my relatives, especially all the aunties, like to talk a lot. And the best place to share is to share with the aunties. They will spread the word for you. All right. And then after that, you meet them for like family dinner, like Chinese New Year or any kind of event, birthdays or weddings. Hey, I heard your podcast. Very good, very good. Wow, very professional. Wow, yeah. Like I met my uncles and my aunties. Like, wow, you look so professional. Like, wow, you interviewed the CEO. Wow, that was like fantastic. Like, how did you do that? So I just did it. Yeah. So the best ways is to, if you don't have social media, you can just use WhatsApp. It's fine. Yeah. Or if you leave, like, or like your neighbors want to know about it, like your neighbor's dog, your neighbor's dog always keep on barking, you can just say, hey neighbor, your neighbor your dog keeps on barking, but I'm doing a podcast recording. Oh, what is a podcast? Then you can share about your podcast, and then you can share about, oh, this is what my podcast you want to watch. Yeah.
Robin, I ask you a very, very simple question, very basic question. Actually, the podcast, you need to download an app, is it? Then from the apps that you do the podcast, is it?
It depends on what podcast you want to do. You tell me what podcast you want to do first.
Actually, I'm very new to podcast. I want to start by like what we say. Okay, now we don't know, like what I said, we don't know how to start. Is there a software that we can go in and start to do?
Yeah, I just shared with you. So there's two types of podcasts. So there's two types. There are two formats. The format is audio or video. So it depends if you want the easiest way to do is audio podcast. And if you do not want to download any apps or not very familiar with any other apps, it's totally fine. You can use your phone. Your phone has audio recording. Go find on your phone, you will find audio recording. So if you want to talk about something like a topic that you're passionate about, just go on your phone and just press record. Use the wired better, or just use the wire cable, and then just start speaking. Yeah, just start speaking about a topic that you're passionate about. Once you have done that, just forget about the editing part and everything. If you want to start, because you have no experience at all, you can just start sharing it, No need to have, if you don't want to do the post-editing part, post-production, which is the editing, fine, no problem. You can just review it, whether you sound good or not, and then you just share with your friends.
Just share anywhere, like WhatsApp or anywhere?
Can, no problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can start from this, You can start from that, and that's it. But of course, when you do a podcast, I mean, I didn't share this, but always have like an intro, like who are you and what are the topic you're going to talk about. It's like, like every speech, you need to have an intro, body, and conclusion, right? So it's the same process, except that for podcast there's an intro, and then there's a content, the middle part, the body, and then last one is the outro. But it's the same thing. The outro is more like a call to action, so that people can learn more about your podcast. If you're interested to know more about my podcast, you can subscribe. You can find here. You can text me, and then I'll send you for more updates.
How long normally is one podcast? 2 minutes, 1 minute?
Can, no problem. Yeah, 1 minute podcast is good. If you let's say you want to talk about, let's say you want to give an advice to someone, or let's say or lesson, or maybe a lesson of life, you can just talk about it as long as you want. You want to talk about it for 30 seconds, you can talk about it for 30 seconds. You can start from there. And then after that, gradually you can build up. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all for now. Yeah, I was told that we need to wrap it up. Yeah, I know it's quite long. I wanted to give my best to you so that you can give out your best as well. All right. So let me answer this question here. How do you stay motivated and consistent with your podcasting schedule? I think I'm gonna keep out again. Am I back?
You're
here?
back. You're back.
I'm back. I'm back. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let me answer the question of how to stay motivated and consistent with the podcasting schedule. First is to always use a calendar. Use a calendar and always be prepared in advance. Always be prepared in advance, especially inviting your guests. Which day you want to prepare your questions, which day you want to meet with the guests online or in person. If you want to book the room, like preparation, schedule everything in advance. So for me, to stay motivated and consistent is always to have to prepare in advance. And how do you engage with your audience and build a loyal listener base? For me, it's more about like it does take time to engage with to build a loyal listener base. You gotta start somewhere first. So start and then see whether they like it. And if you don't have a lot of listeners, maybe you need to see you need to ask people, so what is the topic that you're interested into? And then based on that, then you can just change your content, and then you improve on that. All right. So what's the trend that do you see shaping the future of podcasting? The trend nowadays is AI. AI is going to change the podcasting world. And for me, AI is a good tool, but at the same time, it's very bad because in terms of AI producing podcasts, I know some AI tools are producing a lot of podcasts. You don't need a person to create a podcast now. You just use AI to produce a podcast. I don't recommend that because, we are human. We have a voice. This is Vivid Voices. So we got to speak out, right? Yeah. So we got to be very careful with AI as well. See the good side, discard the bad side. Key challenges I face, a lot of challenges. How I overcome them is to keep on going. Yeah, keep on going, and you will make mistake, but it will always be better after that. Yeah, and have a support system to always encourage you. So yeah, so how do you identify select topics? I already answered that. In terms of fears, I know can be very fearful. In the beginning, let me tell you something. The first episode that you're going to record is not going to be perfect. It is not going to be perfect. But I don't want you to beat yourself up and say, you know what, it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but you gave your best and you will become better. You will not be better on the next episode, but you will be better and better on the following, maybe up to 5-6 episodes. So you got to practice it so that you become better. All right. So I think that is all for today. So that's a recap. What is a podcast in your own words? To choose your podcast topics, podcast formatting, the formats, audio and video, which style of podcast fits you the most, the room setting, in person or online, technical aspects, in terms of software and equipment, and the whole process of creating a successful podcast. So that is all for me today. Thank you very much for having me. So I give the floor back to Hani. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin, for those really great and insightful session. Please, everyone, if you can, turn on your camera and shake as much as you can in front of the camera, or give reactions so Robin can see how much you really appreciate all the sharings that he did tonight. And I'm so happy to see that all of us, 18 of us, in fact, maintains from the beginning to the end. So that is an awesome thing. That, Robin, speaks on how much people are actually very curious and wanting to learn what podcast is all about. Before we move forward to the next part of our agenda, can we have a group photo first? Because I do know that some of you may need to leave a little bit earlier. So let's take a group photo. Christine, our public relations, our VPPR. I was looking at Terrence, then I was thinking of Christine. Christine?
Do you mind if you can help me? I'm not really sure how to screenshot this.
Oh, okay, no problem then.
Yeah, I will learn how to in the future.
Okay, no problem. All right, let me do it then. Okay, everybody, give the biggest smile on your face. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, hold on. One more time. The chat is still popping up. All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. I have our group photo. That is amazing. Thank you very much, Robin, for the sharing. There's a lot of things that I believe we've learned, and most importantly is that for us to apply it. So what comes next? Now this will come next. This is going to be a little bit more for the club members and all of our guests who might be interested in becoming a member. So let me share with you an immediate response on how our club will look like. But before that, please give me probably 10 minutes. Rosanna, can you share the slides, please? Thank you.
Yep, hang on, just opening them up. Share. Sharing, share. Okay. You okay there, honey? Okay.
Okay, I'm good. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this would be how our meeting would most likely look like for the next 3 months and for the next 6 months, actually. And if you don't thank you, Rosanna. Give me one moment.
Okay. So give some honey some time. So this is just the plan for the next 6 months from July to December. This is what we've planned so far, but of course this is subject to change. So today we've had our first meeting today with Robin, presenting the podcast workshop. And by right after this, we're meant to be discussing on the selection of theme or topics and also role players, because it all depends on what we want to achieve and how we want to do it. And then we'll have a meeting every 2 weeks with, I guess the intention is to have a live podcast. So we'll have a meeting every 2 weeks and the dates are stated there. We'll have a review after 3 months, possibly Robin coming back and seeing our progress to see how we go and what else we need to look at. And we'll be evaluating again. So round 1 after 3 months, end of September, and round 2 at the end of December. Okay, so that's where we are right now. Okay, and then in terms of
Rosanna, right, before we go into this one, thank you very much. I am back. Let me share screen. Hi, everyone. Yes, mommy duties when husband is away. That's happened. Okay, so thank you, Rosanna, for letting all of us know that. So that exactly is our plan. If you see just now, those are the dates that we will be having all our meetings. And the idea is to actually practice what we have. Based on Robin's conversation just now, this is the mission that I believe this club is heading to. Number one, first and foremost, we really need to create values for our club members. Because as what Robin says just now, it is very important for us to create our listeners base, right? And we'll get there. In order to do that, we have to make sure our club members has value. So this is for all of you here today. We are open for membership in this club. And if you're not a Toastmasters yet, then that's okay as well. You can, because this is not an advanced club. This is a regular Toastmasters. While we try to adapt what we can learn from podcasting, we as well apply what we learn and all the competencies we can get from Toastmasters. Number two is to develop the right program. As you know that this is a new, very pilot type of program that we're creating. We will ensure that we'll get there to the right program as we progresses along towards the future meetings. And I think this is also from what Robin mentioned just now, because in my understanding is that you need to have a good quality views and as well as a good quality audio and visual, because I think for people to listen to us for an hour, I do believe quality must takes place. But before the quality takes place, the program has to run first. And as we add value to our members, I think we'll get there. To improve the quality as we go along. So this is what's been mentioned to Rosanna earlier on. The idea is to have 1 season and 5 episodes. I think after the next 3 months, Robin will bring you back and we can see how you can let us know what you think and how we could improve from there. And we'll keep Robin in the loop as well. So the one thing in this club we do know is that we will be doing an interview panel type of podcast. And I do believe we don't expect it to be perfect. That's the beauty of it. As we grow along in Toastmasters and podcasting, we'll get there. These are the suggestions of the theme and topics. We have not, as a club, decided yet what would be the first season, and we'll decide that before our next meeting, which is on our first podcast season, 22nd of July. So that is going to be an exciting adventure coming in. So where do we go from here? It is the setup of role players. So this part, apologies for those of you who are not members of Vivid Voices. This is where I try to see and connect as we go along. So you know how in Toastmasters we have a TOE? And I think in this club, that's not going to be the highlight and the center anymore. In fact, the highlight and the center of this club I could coordinate with a general evaluator, which should be the program producer. Because the way this club is running, the way we discussed in the beginning would be when we log into Zoom. So just FYI, before we invited Robin, we wanted to do Zoom. So the idea was we'll revise that, of course. The idea was to enter Zoom 15 minutes before the 1 hour podcasting. And then the program producer could do a short briefing. And then we go live for an hour. And then we go down, and that half an hour will be focusing on the evaluations part. So this is where our grammarian or wordmaster comes in. I count the timer moderator. So instead of evaluating per speech, we'll be evaluating the speakers as a whole. For example, if we have Terence, myself, and Rosanna speaking on the day itself, so it could be that we appoint Christy to evaluate me, and then Bhuvi to evaluate Terence, and perhaps Trisha to evaluate Rosanna. Then the way we look at it is that they will evaluate the whole way through, whether if you have anything to improve from there onwards. The way I see it, this could be more like a table topics constant, an hour of worth of table topics, because we do know that, again, this is a program in develop. So we try to see how we can go from there onwards. So this is where we're looking at, and so that we can talk to other members or other participants in this group, I will post this role players list in our group chat later for you to take up some of the role. And as this program would be its first in running, we'll have a mentoring session until we get it right. So to our own club members, think about what kind of role would you like to play in the next meeting, and we'll go along from there. And preparation is key, right, Robin? So for the next 2 weeks, we'll do our preparation. Okay. Right. Awesome. Now that we've seen how it looks like, I have one final assignment for all of you, and that is this. If you look in the chat, there is a WhatsApp link. You don't mind clicking on it and drop me a hello. That is my personal WhatsApp number, because for all our guests like Andy, Michael, Adina, Philip, Lee, Jason, Jasmine, Elias, Heidi, later on when we are about whether if or not you can join into our next meeting or you'll be tuning in, I will let you know in the next meeting. I will send you the link and you can view it closer so that you always be in the loop with us. If you were to click onto the link or drop me a text, I'll be sure to remind you our actual podcasting. Whatever we're talking about today, we're going to try to apply it. Whether or not we'll destroy some of our physical image, well, that's a second thing. And most importantly is that we actually would be able to practice this in person. There's a lot to say, there's a lot to do, but I think it shouldn't deter us, and I think it's going to be a very exciting journey ahead. We have about 10 minutes to go. I'm going to call upon a few of our guests and let us know what you think about this. Would you want to come back, or what would you hope to listen to from this particular club? And let us know so we can include your expectations and see whether if we could make this a home for you as well. Can we get Andy? Hi, Andy. What do you think?
Hi, hello, good
Given the
evening.
session so far. Good evening, yeah.
Thank you very much for making me the first one to respond to your question. It was a wonderful session, full of information, really enriching. And just like me, I think everybody else was also new to this subject of podcast. So everything that was shared today was full of learning, different aspects, both technical and the things related to marketing, how to make it reach out to a larger audience. Very exciting. And I find it useful because for business purposes, we have a plan to start the podcast series within our company, whereby we will be interviewing business owners from small and medium businesses to help audiences understand the challenges being faced and how they have overcome. That's why this podcast series related meeting today was extremely helpful to me. I would like to continue to be a participant here with so many new topics, as many exciting topics as you can bring along. And if there is a way that I can contribute, then I will be really happy to do so. Thank you so much for including me here.
Awesome, Andy. Andy, if you don't mind me asking, are you a Toastmaster?
I am not, but I have a few friends who are regular in different Toastmaster clubs. I have never had a chance to join any of them.
Awesome. Okay, so Andy, just for your information, we're a part of Toastmasters. Usually Toastmasters has a specific format, but what we're trying to do here is something a lot new, and this concept is pretty much new. So drop me a text on WhatsApp, and could share with you how you can be a part of this. Then,
yeah, sure.
For you to consider.
Yeah, certainly. I got this link from Instagram. I'm not sure which number should I send a WhatsApp message on. If I can get to know the number, if it's anywhere on the screen, I will do that.
It's on the chat. If you click on the chat, that will be me. I will do that one more time so that you can see. Can you see it now?
601-285. All right, I'll do that now.
Yeah, that's my WhatsApp. All right, awesome. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I get Michael? So Michael came in a little bit. We called you just now, Michael, and I didn't know whether you heard us. Yep, Michael. What do you think of the night so far? Would you want to come back to be watching Vivid Voices?
Sure. Because on Mandarin Bintulu, but I have to find many news information in English available mostly. So the Chinese side, very few information. So I do turn to English side to get some of the new subject. That's all I think. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael, for that. I would connect you to Jasmine. Jasmine is an area director, though she is in a different area, I believe, as a Toastmasters as a whole. I think we could coordinate with one another. So, Jasmine, if you don't mind sending Michael a personal message of how he can be in contact with you so that you can give him information that he needs.
Michael, you are from which club?
Mandarin Bintulu.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jasmine. And finally, Heidi. Oh, she just left. I was just about to call her. Okay, no worries. In that case, Adina, if you're still here, Adina, would love to hear from you if you'd like to come and watch us or even be a part of us. What do you think, Adina?
I would be very interested to join the next meeting. I think this has been really good, especially with the workshop on podcasting. So it will be good to see how it's applied in the meeting setting.
Awesome. Thank you, Adina. You and I both, and everyone in this club, we are looking forward to apply what we've learned and cross-check with Toastmastering. Right, everybody, that is all the time we have for today. Please do drop me a text. It has been a wonderful night. Club members, I will see you in the group chat. Let's talk about who will do and do what else. And Robin, thank you very much for spending your night here. I do know that your other half was in for a short bit and then she went out. Please send her our regards. Hopefully to see her in our future meetings as well. Okay, everyone, have a great night ahead, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now. We'll see you hopefully live and ready, and even if we don't, we'll still go forward with it. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night ahead. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Stay
Good night.
tuned to VVT.